Hey folks, this is David Wood. This is going to be an interesting podcast on the slavery system in the Torah. And I'm going to be talking about why the slavery system in the Torah is better than our current slavery system of jail, and how to eliminate the jail system entirely in 4 years, replacing it with something that reorients criminals towards re-entering society healthy. Okay, now, as a side note, I don't condone slavery, right? I don't like it, but I also think that it's necessary in society. And remember, society does have slaves. They're who are they? Well, they're criminals. They're the people in jail, right? We never got rid of slavery. We just replaced one dumb slavery system that wasn't following the Torah with another dumb slavery system. So a little bit of background on myself. Who am I and why should you be listening to me? Well, my name is David Wood. By the time I was 35 years old, I did $200 million in sales on the internet. I'm running for president in the United States in 2020. I am Messiah ben David, the rightful heir to the throne of Israel. You remember King David 2020. You say, how do you know that you are? Well, because I am the Messiah. The Messiah comes in two parts, the Father and the Son. I am the incarnation of Elohim Mazarek, the Father of Jesus. Jesus is my son. I live for 133 trillion years, then I incarnate backwards in time after we rebuild the universe and create the celestial kingdom. So in any case, continue paying attention. You know what I mean? This is like you're sitting in a room, like imagine sitting in the room with like Jesus, like hearing things before everybody really knew about it. Well, that's where you are right now at this point in time, because it's February 7th, 2019, and I haven't hit the news yet. I haven't got my proof out there yet. I'm doing it. So I'm in a good horror store. If you hear some music in the background, I'm just going to keep going. And I want you to pay attention deeply to every word that I say, because this is a very merciful view of the world. Okay, and it's a very merciful view towards criminals, and this is something that if we do it like this, okay, then we are going to reorient people that are dangerous to society to not be dangerous anymore. They'll be full of love and full of peace, and they'll be productive and building homes. And right now we don't have a good system. And I'm going to talk about the stats and how, something like 2/3, 3/4 of criminals end up back in jail because of our current system, because they're around criminals when they're in jail for years. It's the worst association they've ever had in their life. And they should have the best association they've ever had in their life. They need to be reoriented, treated like children, re-raised, you know what I mean? So, first of all, I want to share my thoughts on the way that the United States did slavery in its early years. The way that the United States did slavery in its early years was complete and utter racist abomination, right? Who were the slaves? They were the black people. Who were the slave owners? They were the white people. I mean, can you get something more retarded? Really? So I'm not condoning that, and definitely the way that they did it will not ever be done again. Especially, under my reign, which I'm not going to be a king of the United States. I'll be king of Jerusalem, right? There's a very big difference. It's irresponsible for me to be, for example, the president of the United States and also be its king. That would be massive imbalance of power. Now, I personally have a distaste for racism. The United States is all about checks and balances, right? All about balance of powers to keep the government from turning into tyrants, right? And right now, the government has a tyrannous slavery system, right? We have something like 2% of the population in jail. So I'm going to read the stats here in a bit. I personally have a distaste for racism and a distaste for slavery in all forms. I was not raised by a racist family. I was not raised by a family that liked slavery. And my father, my martial arts instructor growing up was a black guy. I'm not a racist at all. I love black people. I think they're awesome. I learned more martial arts from that guy than I ever did from anybody. Now, the way that slavery was done in the Torah, the first 5 books of Moses, and the way that slavery is done now is night and day. Now, remember, once again, I mentioned this before, the United States never got rid of slavery at all. It was a scam. Slavery is jail. Slavery is a money system that robs the people, forcing them to serve the lender. The central banking system, which is not even owned by the federal government, that's a slavery system. Slavery is sex slavery, for example, prostitution many times, which I have a strong dislike for prostitution because of what it does to women. And I think that it shouldn't be illegal. I think people should, be legal, but I think that sex slavery should be illegal. You know what I mean? I think people need to be able to choose. Us trying to control people and throw them in jail for things that they're doing is that are not hurting anybody but themselves. This is not smart. But sex slavery, the slave owners need to be freaking thrown in jail, and those women set free and give them some money. I'll tell you that. Right? Giving all their slave owners money is what should happen. That's how we should do that. and then execute them personally. I have a really strong distaste for sex slavery, right? So sex slavery, for example, prostitution many times is women who are sold into sex slavery and do not have a choice. They're many times slaves. So there would be no sex slavery under this system, okay? None. It would not be allowed, period. And it would be checked on. There would be cameras, there would be psychologists involved, there would be all sorts of things involved to keep people safe, okay? So first of all, our current slavery system is horrible and mismanaged and done completely improperly. We do have slaves. Once again, they're criminals. It's like 2% of society are slaves. You know, come on. There's way more than we used to have. So it's horrible, mismanaged. It's done completely improperly. Here's some stats. According to the U.S. Bureau of Justice Statistics, 2,220,300 adults were incarcerated in the U.S. federal and state prisons and county jails in 2013. About 0.91% of adults, 1 in 110 in the U.S. resident population. Additionally, 4,751 and 400 adults in 2013, 1 in 51 were on probation or on parole. Okay, so this is from that's a stat from Wikipedia. So we're talking it's like 1% of the population or something like that. 1 in 110 people in the U.S. We do not need that many people in jail. These people should be being productive, you know what I mean? And I've got a little cool graphic there on the site. Remember, you could read this post at theteachingsofkingdavid.com. Theteachingsofkingdavid.com. Read my blog, Tell Others, Restore Jerusalem. That's what it's all about. Jerusalem will be pretty much... we never really stopped restoring Jerusalem, but Jerusalem will be massively restored by the time I'm done with my presidential reign in the United States. And the reason it will be is because I'll get everybody voluntarily giving 10% of their income to pay off national debt. I'll give people giving 30% of their income. And the reason is because they'll live better off of the lower percent, and we'll help them come up with management systems to help people get cheaper products and stuff who do that. You know, I mean, there's things we can do as a people, as a society, as a federal and state government system. We need to rebuild the system for America. It's broken. Now, the increase in numbers of people in jail is proof that our system is broken and it's not working at all. Right? We do not need 2,220,300 hardworking Americans now. We need them in society, giving value, rebuilding roads, building houses, etc. Jail also costs money. How much? And like I've said many times, the whole government should run for free. The fact that the government costs any money is an abomination. It's ridiculous. The government should be profiting left and right. Everything in the government should be making money. When I'm president, the whole thing will be making money in 4 years. Every part of the government, and we will just eliminate crap and overfat bullshit, because we're not going to have people hiding in corners, you know, stacking up papers and doing nothing all day, laughing at everybody for not paying attention to them, you know, and spending $20,000 on a hammer and then taking it and spending it on prostitutes or whatever they do. This is not going to be happening. So jail costs money, and the federal government costs money. Well, how much does jail cost, right? In 2015, among the 45 responding states, the total state expenditure on prisons was just under $43 billion. Because of the size of states and state prison systems vary widely, there is likewise variation between each state's total prison costs, ranging from $65 million in North Dakota to more than $8 billion, a fifth of the total prison spending in the United States and California, the largest state prison system in the country. See Table 1. Now, a common measure used by states to understand this cost is the average cost per inmate, calculated by taking the total state spending on prisons and dividing it by the average daily prison population. Now, this figure represents the amount the state spends annually on average to staff and maintain the prisons to provide all prison services. Among the 45 states that provide data representing 1.29 million of the 1.33 million total people incarcerated in all 50 state prison systems, the total cost per inmate averaged $33,274 and ranged from a low of $14,780 in Alabama to the high of $69,355 in New York. I mean, we're spending $70,000 a year on a criminal that makes society like nothing. This is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. This is retarded. This is mental retardation. We are not a retarded nation. We have people that are mentally retarded who we need to heal, right? And I know how to heal them, actually. I could take a mentally retarded person and in 5 years they'd be smarter than you. Okay, I could actually do it a lot faster with better technology, but my goal would eventually be 8 hours. But it would take me right now probably about 5 years. Now, if you know anybody, you're welcome to send them my way, okay? I promise I could do it. Okay, because they're very intelligent the people, you know, and so I'm not insulting them. I'm just saying that has a place. You know, we do not need retardation in the government, right? Does that make sense? Taking over the government. In a range from below 40, we need to heal those people. Okay, so in Alaska, California, Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Jersey, this is 8 states, had a cost per inmate of above $50,000. Why is Alaska spending $50,000 on an inmate? I mean, they're a tiny state. Not probably because of the cold or whatever, but 18 mostly southern states had costs less than $25,000. Well, 19 states had costs between $25,000 and $50,000. See Table 1. And then that's from vera.org, and that's a post on the publications of the space. I think you can click on the link in my post. Just look for the post on slavery. Okay, I might do a part 2 talking about the Quran laws on slavery, because they're also more merciful than this, right? These are not merciful laws. Sending people in jail for 10 years for using, you know, methamphetamines or whatever, you know, these illegal drugs. Now, I agree that there needs to be fierce punishment for illegal drugs that are man-made, but really, we don't need it. I mean, the Torah has no such laws on this. They let people do what they want. You know what I mean? And so, when you ever heard of any private slave owner that had their slaves cost them money? Never. Okay, this never happened. Why in the world are we spending $8 billion in California alone to keep good, hardworking citizens in jail? Right? And that's the truth, is they can be good, hardworking citizens. You say they're not good, hardworking citizens right now. Well, we need to change that. It's very easy to retrain somebody to be lazy, from being lazy to being very hardworking, especially in a jail system. I mean, this is the most ridiculous, ludicrous thing that I have ever seen in my entire life. Hold on real quick here. I gotta take some vitamins before I forget. I've been forgetting all day. When have you ever heard of... okay, so why in the world are we spending $8 billion in California alone every year, or whatever it is, to keep good, hardworking citizens in jail? It's not working, people. No, I think that we need the jail system. For what? I think that we need to have a system that can capture the Nephilim. You know, but that's not going to happen from our current jail. There's nothing in current technology that can capture the Nephilim. I promise. They just change size. They would they shapeshift and turn into a bird and fly out of there. I mean, you wouldn't even know how they got out. They just slipped. You know, they turn themselves tiny, and you know, we need to build new technology. But we can do that in our current jail system. So it's not like we need to destroy that system or anything like that for now. So here's the thing: if this isn't working, the jail slavery system also does not reorient criminals towards society very well. According to the National Institute of Justice, 67.8% of released criminals are re-incarcerated within 3 years, and 76.6% are re-incarcerated within 5 years of release. Right? And we're not going to capture Nephilim that aren't breaking the laws, but they always break the laws. I mean, this is, you know, this is what Nephilim do. You know, I've talked about them in many of my videos and posts. A lot of those videos I took down because I didn't have good energy in some of them, and now I have very great energy. I did a lot of personal healing work, right? I had a lot of pain from how people had been treating me over the last year since I started coming out with this knowledge. I'm autistic. I'm a very loving person. I care about myself. I care about others. Now, within 3 years of release, about 2/3, 67.8% of released criminals were rearrested. Within 5 years of release, about 3/4, 76.6% of released prisoners were rearrested. Of those prisoners rearrested, more than half, 56.7%, were arrested by the end of the first year. Okay? Now, is that the kind of stats you would want on your children if they were in jail? As a society, we have to stop thinking of ourselves. What's the difference between the slavery system in the Torah and the slavery system of the United States of America and other major countries that have lost their way in wickedness from Christians and other faiths saying that we do not need to follow the law of Moses? Just because we are saved does not mean that we should not follow the law out of the love of Jehovah and Jesus, correct? As a side note, Jehovah is actually Jesus. The Father is Elohim Mazarek. I'm the only incarnation that has ever existed or can ever exist in the pure, unadulterated spirit, mind, and will of Elohim Mazarek, who is in heaven. Now, the Messiah is the Father, the Mosiah is the Son. Christ originally meant Mosiah, I promise. Anywho, back to the Torah and repenting from our abominations. What does the Torah actually say about slavery? The answer may surprise you. Now, Exodus 21, King James Version. Now, this is. I'm just going to read this whole chapter. Some of this is not related to slavery, but I'm going to read it anyway. Now, these are the judgments which thou shalt set before them. If thou buy a Hebrew servant, 6 years he shall serve, and in the 7th he shall go out free for nothing. If he came in by himself, he shall go out by himself. If he were married, then his wife shall go out with him. If his master had given him a wife, and she have borne him sons or daughters, the wife and her children shall be her master's, and he shall go out by himself. And if the servant shall plainly say, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out free, then, who would ever say that in our current jail system? You know what I mean? Nobody. They'd be like, I'm out of here, you know what I mean? They wouldn't, like this is a merciful system to even get people to say this. This is the goal of every slave owner, is to have their slaves love them so much that they just want to serve them, right? Because they're so much better off with them than they would be out in the world, right? And if the servant shall plainly say, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out for free. Then his master shall bring him unto the judges. He shall bring him to the door, or unto the doorpost, and his master shall bore his heir through with an awl, and he shall serve him forever. And if a man sell his daughter to be a maidservant, she shall not go out as the men servants do. If she please not her master, who hath betrothed her to himself, then shall he let her be redeemed, to sell her unto a strange nation. He shall have no power, seeing that he hath dealt deceitfully with her. And if he hath betrothed her unto his son, he shall deal with her after the manner of daughters. If he take him another wife, her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage shall he not diminish. And if he do not these unto her, then shall she go out free without money. He that smiteth a man so that he die shall surely be put to death. And if a man lie not in wait, but might God deliver him into his hand, then I will appoint thee a place whither he shall flee. But if a man come presumptuously upon his neighbor to slay him with guile, thou shalt take him from mine altar that he may die. And he that smiteth his father or his mother shall surely be put to death. And he that stealeth a man and selleth him, or if he be found in his hand, he shall surely be put to death. And he that curseth his father or his mother shall surely be put to death. And if a man strive together, one smite another with a stone or with his fist, and he die not, but keepeth his bed, if he rise again and walk abroad his staff, then he shall be that smote him be quit. Only he shall pay for the loss of his time, and shall cause him to be thoroughly healed. And if a man smite his servant or his maid with a rod, and he die under his hand, he shall surely be punished. Notwithstanding, if he continue a day or two, he shall not be punished, for he is his money. If men strive and hurt a woman with child, so that her fruit depart from her, yet no mischief follow, he shall surely be punished according as the woman's husband will lay upon him, and he shall pay as the judges determine. And if any mischief follow, then thou shalt deal life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burning for burning, wound for wound, stripe for stripe. And if a man smite the eye of his servant to the eye of his maid, that it perish, he shall let him go free for his eye's sake. And if he smite out his manservant's tooth or his maidservant's tooth, he shall let him go free for his tooth's sake. If an ox gore a man or a woman that they die, I mean, listen how merciful this is, right? We're talking about slavery laws that people are getting set free for being abused. When did that ever happen in the United States? That was not righteousness, the way we did it before. Some of the slave owners, they were righteous. But I did not like it. See, listen to the difference here. If an ox gore a man or a woman, if somebody gets their teeth knocked out in criminal in jail, do they let them go free? Because the jail system isn't taking care of them like it promised to do? Jail is supposed to take care of criminals if we're going to have jail. It doesn't do that. It needs to go away. This is not a good system. Okay? If an ox gore a man or a woman that they die, the ox shall be surely stoned, and his flesh shall not be eaten, but the owner of the ox shall be quit. But if the ox were wont to push with his horn in times past, and it hath been testified by his owner, and he hath not kept him in, but he that hath killed a man or woman, the ox shall be stoned, and his owner shall also be put to death. There be laid on him a sum of money that he shall give for the ransom of his life, whatsoever is laid upon him. Whether he have gored a son or have gored a daughter, according to this judgment shall it be done unto him. If the ox shall push a manservant or a maidservant, he shall give unto their master 30 shekels of silver, and the ox shall be stoned. And if a man shall open a pit, or if a man shall dig a pit and not cover it, and an ox or an ass fall therein, the owner of the pit shall make it good, and give money unto the owner of them, and the dead beast shall be his. And if one man's ox hurt another's, that he die, then shall they sell the live ox and divide the money of it, and the dead ox also they shall divide. Or if it be known that the ox has used to push in time's path, and his owner has not kept him in, he shall surely pay ox for ox, and the dead shall be his own. So that's from Bible Gateway, obviously. So first of all, some noticeable differences. Criminals were many times sold into slavery as punishment for their crimes, and the families would buy the slaves, and they would reorient them into society. That's a merciful society right there. Okay, giving a criminal something they never had. Good parents like my mom and dad. Good parents. That's what we're doing. And right now what we're doing is we're throwing them in to a system that surrounds them with evil on every side. How in the world are we supposed to take criminals and rebuild society if we're doing what we're doing right now? We do not need a centralized jail system. We need a decentralized jail system. We do not need a centralized government. We need a decentralized government. The central government will have value. The decentralized government. We actually need both. We need decentralization, really. That's the way the United States is. Okay, the slaves in the Torahs are criminals, many times purchased from other societies. Notice the maximum punishment for slaves is 6 years. And on the 7th year he shall go out free, unless he loves his master so much that he allows an awl to be bored through his ear, and he covenants to serve him forever. What criminal would ever do that in the current USA jail slavery system? I'm not even close to done, so keep refreshing for details. So what's the major difference between the current system and the jail system? Association. Okay? Look, let's say your son smoked some weed somewhere where it was illegal. First of all, when I'm president, I will see if we can grant a national pardon for all this bullshit, with people doing what they want that is not hurting anyone. Do you really want your son or your daughter to be in jail with murderers? Or you don't want them to be in jail at all, but I mean, if they get thrown in jail, or for example, homosexual rapists with diseases who might fight them, knock out their teeth, or rape them, giving them all kinds of nasty diseases. That I'm certain that has happened to people that I know. I'm certain of it. They didn't deserve that. That was not a good system for them. Well, I think that what happens to people, they always deserve from karma. Otherwise, it wouldn't happen. But maybe not in this incarnation. And I mean, my friend got his teeth knocked out. He hung himself in prison. And you know what? When I make enough money, I'm going to pay for him to get new teeth. I promised him that. I'm going to pay for him to get new teeth. Myself. Society should have done that. Society caused that man to lose his teeth. The Alaskan jail system caused that man to lose his teeth. Caused my friend to nearly kill himself and destroy his brain. That was the jail system in Alaska, where my dad was a judge. My dad might have even sent him there. No, it was a different county. It was for, robbery, armed robbery, first time he'd ever done it. Now his brain is permanently damaged. That is not a loving society. We did not take care of my friend. He hadn't been able to work in like 20 years. It was his own karma. And my friend is helping him heal. But it is what it is. Okay? My friend who I trained is helping him heal. Regrow his brain. Like I happened to me. I got my severe brain damage. Well, I've mentioned that before. From a chemical, I call it a chemical accident is really what it was. Because I didn't know what was going on. I essentially, somebody was putting a bunch of amphetamines, crystal meth in my plant medicine, and destroyed my brain and my consciousness. And I wouldn't do it. I never took crystal meth. And then it took me 2 years to heal that out of my brain. So what's the main difference between the current system and the jail system, or the Torah system and the jail system? Association. Well, let's say your son smoked some weed somewhere where it was illegal. First of all, when I'm president, I will see if we can grant a national pardon for all this bullshit with people doing what they want that's not hurting anybody. Do you really want your son or daughter to be in jail with murderers and or homosexual rapists with diseases who might find them, knock out their teeth, rape them, giving all sorts of diseases for doing something like smoking weed? I mean, and the weed thing is, now all of a sudden, it's getting legal. But what about all the people that are in jail for this shit? It's bullshit. Bullshit. Let them out of jail. We don't need people to be in jail for nonsense. Let them out. This is ridiculous. What would happen then? They'd be hanging themselves in prison like Matt's brother did, destroying their brain and giving them lifelong permanent brain damage, which I can heal, by the way, in 2 to 5 years with current technology. I hope later to be able to do this in 8 to 10 hours and already know how, but need investment money. Now, King David 2020, Make America Righteous Again. Okay, go to the teachings of KingDavid.com, click on King David 2020 at the top, and read my blog post. What if my friend could have been bought out of slavery by the friend of his parents? This would have never ever happened. What should be the cost of a slave? $10,000. Okay, limited to 1 slave per family. The family's tested by psychologists for things like sociopathy. They should be religious families. Why? We do not want, for example, people that are not spiritual to have slaves. I don't want Satanists having slaves, for example. It's a bad idea. I've known a bunch of Satanists. I think they're a lot of times great people in certain areas, and then I just don't think they should be slave owners. But I think it's a bad idea. You should get religious families. This is a Christian nation. Okay, Christians, Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses, they'd be fantastic at that. You know what I mean? They would all treat them very well. Islamic people the Islamic people, of course, have their own slavery treatment laws, and they'd be judged by their own legal system. That's what we want to do under kingdom law. We want to separate a national legal system from kingdom law, and people could choose their legal system. They can choose to go with kingdom law, which would be the Torah, the Quran, the other spiritual law, legal systems that there are. And people would be able to elect to follow one of those, or they'd be... The Quran is a great one. The Torah is a great one. The Torah I like, of course, because I'm part Jewish, better than the Quran. But the Quran also is merciful. For example, in the Quran, they won't even accept your witness in the case of a murder if you don't pass certain righteousness qualifications and you aren't known as an upstanding citizen. They won't even accept your witness. Right? How many murderers that were thrown in jail from false evidence could have we gotten rid of with the Quran system? A ton. You know what I mean? It's a very merciful system. It's merciful towards all of society to get rid of murderers, guys. Murderers should not be slaves. They should be gotten rid of. Now, what's done in the past is done in the past. We've already got them sentenced to jail, and they've served jail for a very long time, and they were promised certain things. But if people do not confess all of their murders on a housetop, it should be death penalty 100% of the time. And then they could be sold into slavery for 6 years. You know what I mean? No matter how many, if they confess all of it. Right? All of it. They tell them where all the bodies are buried and everything. I talk about that later. What if my friend could have been bought out of slavery by the friend of his parents? This would have never ever happened. What should be the cost of a slave? $10,000, living in 1 slave per family. The family's tested by psychologists. Things like sociopathy is part of the $10,000 fee. Now, not necessarily, a sociopath is not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, my friend Victor Seth is a sociopath, and he's a righteous sociopath. You know what I mean? My wife has sociopathy, and she's a very righteous sociopath. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just, I bet Donald Trump has sociopathy, right? Sociopathy is a beautiful way of brain function for many people, okay? And Dave Sharp has sociopathy. Dave Sharp is a beautiful sociopath, okay? And would treat people very well. But they would need to be checked a little bit more because they can get out of hand, right? They need better checks and balances than other people do because otherwise they get out of hand. That's what I learned from my experiences with them. Okay, so also as a part of the $10,000 fee, the government helps set up a prison cell inside of a home or underneath a home or something like that, something that really doesn't cost a lot of money. The slave could help actually build that. And also technology such as electrical circuits in the neck that can be triggered by the slave owner if the slave gets out of hand, right? The book of Proverbs says, spare the rod and spoil the child. Criminals need to be treated like little children until they can act like adults. Right? This is what they were missing. They were missing good parents, because the book of Proverbs says, if you train a child in the way that he should go, when he's old, he will not depart from it. Now, criminal slaves were not raised properly, period. They need to be re-raised by good parents with children whose children are intelligent and hardworking people, or grown out of the home succeeding in society. People like my father, people like rabbis, people like Christian pastors, people like Donald J. Trump. Now, personally, when we put this system live, I want to talk to all the slaves in America and all the criminals on a giant webinar every day for 15 minutes. Everyone. And the President of the United States should carry on that tradition. Because the association will help them change the nation. They will become some of the most productive members of society under my plan. They will outwork everyone else. By the time they're out, they'll have money. They'll be giving value to America. They'll understand business. They'll be going to school. You know what I mean? We're really going to take care of them. That's what love is all about. I know too many people that got thrown in jail just to get thrown in and thrown in and thrown in. My friends. It's not love. Now, so hardworking people like my father, people like rabbis, people like Christian pastors, people like Donald J. Trump. First of all, let's talk about something important. Murderers should not be slaves. They should be executed by the people in front of everyone, like America used to do, in a humiliating, merciful way, like stoning or hanging. You say, why is that merciful? Well, I mean, what's more merciful? Like an electric chair where nobody gets to see them? I mean, at least they get attention, at the end of their life. But like, why do we do it like that? Because if we want people to stop murdering our children, our lovers, our wives, and our husbands, we need to scare the crap out of them in a way that they repent, confess their murders, and avoid the death penalty. Children need to be scared of it. Children need to see it, I promise. In which case, they can be slaves for 6 years and declare what they've done on a housetop with a microphone for everyone to hear. If they do that before they're caught, when they're caught, they have to be eliminated. But if they confess their murders, okay, and when we come out with it, we could just say, you got a month, right? And to confess your murders, and that's all you got. And then the system goes live, and then it's live, and then there's no more waiting times. Okay? People come out, they'll talk about it on a housetop, they'll tell people where the bodies were buried, and society will forgive them. Because we'll be able to give proper funerals to everybody, right? Now, why? Because then only one society will forgive them. What should the slaves do? They should spend 3 hours per day in personal development. In the morning from 6:30 to 9:30. They should have a schedule like the Mormon missionaries do. The Mormon missionaries should come out with their schedule. The Mormon church should do that. They're the best at this. Okay? Every schedule should be... The scheduling system should be approved by the Mormon church, and it should be the same schedule for all the slaves. Okay? 6:30 to 9:30. 3 hours a day in personal development, 1 hour of math, 1 hour of music, 1 hour of reading and writing at a minimum required. We encourage them, obviously, spiritual books, math books, science books, whatever they want to read, whatever they want to write about. Right? And then they could write blogs, and then we could fill the world with knowledge from the criminals and all the things they know, Now, the math will heal the addiction patterns in the brain in a few years, along with personal development and along with the Sephiroth, which I'll talk about later. They can use apps like the one I use with phones given to them by the federal government that cannot call anyone but the slave owner and the people the slave owner allow communication with, such as their father and mother, to allow honor their family. Second, the slave should work for a minimum of 8 hours per day, starting at 9:30, on whatever tasks the slave owner gives them. Preferably, productive tasks like the make the slave owner society money. And if they want to work more than 8 hours, then they can work longer than 8 hours, and maybe there's some sort of a reward for them for that. Okay, as the state and federal government, but you want to teach them to work 8 hours and then to stop so they can learn to have a family. Okay, you can't have a family if you're working all night, and this is why a lot of them steal stuff, is because they don't know how to make money. We got to teach them. I'm going to teach them how to make money. I can do that. I'm very good at teaching people to make money. Okay, so 1 hour math, we're reading and writing. The math will heal the addiction patterns in the brain in a few years. They can use apps like the one I use with phones given to them by the federal government. They cannot call anyone but the slave owner and the people the slave owner allow communication with, such as their father and mother, to honor their family. Second, the slave should work for a minimum of 8 hours a day on whatever tasks the slave owner gives them. Preferably productive tasks that make the slave owner in society monthly, as the local, state, and the federal government would earn 10% of the profits of the slave, tracked by own technology. Okay, 10% of the state, 10% of the government, 10% to feed kids. Okay, feed my starving children. It's a great one. But we can, if we come up with something cheaper, we come up with something bigger, you know, and then they'll get motivated because we're going to help feed all the kids in America, help feed all the kids in the world, help feed little black kids, little white kids, little Chinese kids, and little beautiful children all over the place. And then they're going to feel good about their life. They're going to feel good about their work. You know what I mean? They're going to learn to be motivated. We can alternate. I'll talk to them. Tony Robbins can talk to them. Every day we have a big thought leader talk to them. Maybe I'll do it once a week. I don't know. But I think I'll probably get more value if I do it once a week. But I want to talk to them every day for a little while, maybe once a week. And then you get Tony Robbins talking to him, and Dave Sharp talking to him, and and Dave Sharp, he was an addict and whatnot, and he they are, and then get my wife talking to him, and get women talking to him, and then tell them they can do it, and we believe in them, you know what I mean? And they'll be rewarded with 50% of the profits of whatever they make their slave owner from the remaining 70% to help them go out and rebuild life. Now, this is a little bit different than Torah, have children brought, where it says, they'll go out with nothing if they came in with nothing. But we want this to be a higher law, and so they're helping build something, and we want them to have something at the end of the term, but they got to make it all the way to the term to get it. 6 years, right? Then they get out, and all of a sudden they go out. Maybe they got $200,000. Maybe they got $1 million. Maybe they got $10 million. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then all of a sudden, we teach them proper management skills and stuff like that, or maybe they got $5,000. But they got something. You know what I mean? And they've made society money. They've made the government money. They've fed kids. They feel good about themselves. They know how to raise a family. You know what I mean? Maybe they got a family. And each day, as a part of the work, 1 hour lunch break, lunch should be taken as a part of the group's therapy session on a Zoom or Google Hangout, or whatever new kind of webinar technology we build. They should be addict groups. Why? Well, all criminals are addicts, and really, they just need help. I've been an addict in the past, and I know what kinds of things addictions can do to the brain and to the body. All slaves should be required to take the Sephiroth during their 3-hour personal development session. Now, why is that? Because it will regrow their brain. There's parts of the brain, okay, and I'll prove this, and if it's not proven, then we won't do it. But there's parts of the brain that have gotten really damaged from the drugs that they've taken, and that stuff turns on all the neurogenesis responses in the brain, and it'll regrow all that neurology, and we get them doing that in associations. They maybe start the day with the addict group. I actually think it's a better idea. The addict group, and they start their day, and then they take it as a part of the addict group, because what happens is it'll heal. It'll get this giant spiritual energy going, and this giant healing, and then all of a sudden, they're full of love, and they're full of power, and they're full of forgiveness, and that they start the day with that. You know what I mean? The slave should also be given mineral and vitamin supplements, and make sure there's proper food. We should have food requirements, to rebuild their brain and their neurology, where they're hardworking, productive citizens who give value to society like you and me. The food requirements would be kashrut. It has to be kashrut. It has to be kashrut or halal, right? Those are the two best systems, or vegetarian. But they really probably, if they're criminals, they probably need some sort of meat. Well-treated animals, right? Gotta be part of the plan, or it won't work. That's it for now. Our reality is that this is a much better system. And one more thing, there'd be a system of checks and balances to prevent abuse of the slave owners, and abuse of the slaves would be severely punished. Black slaves should have black owners. White slaves should have white owners, etc. This prevents the racial problems and racial anger. Slaves should be checked on once a day for 1 to 6 months by the community until we all know that they are treated well by society. Plus, there would be an interfaith national prayer group that met together on a giant national hangout every day at 6:30 a.m. local time to pray for the slaves and the families taking care of them in reorienting society. And obviously, the slaves would be able to participate in that, and regardless of what faith they had, we'd accept all prayers from all spiritualities. And then, or we could localize that, be a national group, and then it would be all localized, and then everyone could pray. That's probably actually a much better way to do it, a decentralized way, and occasionally we do a national one, right? If someone's not willing to follow the slave treatment laws in the Torah, then they should not be able to own slaves, period. I hope this helped clear up some confusion about the Torah slavery system. Misunderstanding these laws has caused great consequences for society, and a lot of it came from Christians thinking they don't need to follow the laws because they're beyond it. And that created abuse of the law, and abuse of people. And we gotta love people. And keep in mind, I'm not condoning slavery. I just think that it's a better system than what we're doing right now. Right? That way of doing it. Right? That way. Where, P.S. to get purchased, a slave would have to write up a resume about what they will give the slave owner and what services they know how to provide. There would be an interstate and federal training program to train slaves to provide their own services and be tradesmen. And then I've also got an article linked to from Shabbat.com. Now I'm going to read the Exodus chapter 21 again at the end this is from Mechon Mamre, which is a Jewish translation. And I always like that one because they've got like Hebrew right next to it. Oh, actually, no. I already read this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to insert Exodus 21 in Hebrew, and you can listen to that in Hebrew. It doesn't matter if you don't understand it. Hebrew is a beautiful language, and it's very healing to the brain. Okay? Very healing to the brain. So I'm going to go find that now, edit that into the audio, put some music track in here, something like this. And really, my only goal is to help you win and to help you to do things in a different way. And I hope you see that this system will do things in a far different way than the system that we're doing things with right now. I hope that you see that. Okay? Because we need to love the criminals. This is the problem. See, this is why, like you say, well, or what are you going to run for? Democrat? You're going to run for Republican? I'm going to probably go with one of the major parties because otherwise I won't win. I think actually what I want to do is I want to run Democrat and have a female, one of Donald Trump's daughters, as a Republican. So we run as Democrat and Republican, right? Rather than just one. I think that makes a lot more sense. I think that women are more likely to vote for a Democratic candidate right now, especially if a woman vice president is there. And actually, that's how I think it should be. I think it should be a man and a woman every time. The man is the president, the woman is the vice president. Oh, we could switch that too, but I think the president should always be man. That's my personal opinion. That's the way to do it. We can change that later or something like that. There'll probably be a woman president later on. But I want a female vice president who's a Republican, and I want to go Democrat. And the reason I want to go Democrat is because I think that my policies towards that are especially geared towards feeding all of the women, decentralization but with control, that's checked not checked by the government staff, but that's checked by the society that is approved by the government staff. Okay. And getting everything a well-oiled machine and rebuilding the system of society and the law of consecration, I think will get the Democrats. And I think that having a Republican vice president will get the Republicans. And I think the Republicans will like my philosophies because they're all about freedom. And we're reducing taxes and we're getting everything to make money. And so they're going to like it. And so by the end of 4 years, I'll get the Republicans doing what the Democrats want and the Democrats doing what the Republicans want. Oneness is the way. This is what everybody's missing. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and play this Hebrew and go to the teachingsofkingdavid.com. Again, the title of this post is Why the Slavery System in the Torah is Better Than Our Current System, Slavery System of Jail, and How to Eliminate the Jail System Entirely in 4 years, replacing it with something that reorients criminals towards re-entering society. Alrighty. Yeah, I couldn't find a reading in Hebrew of that, so I'm just going to end this podcast. Go to theteachingsofkingdavid.com. It's been long enough. I appreciate you very much. Oh, the title of this soundtrack that's playing in the background is Fascinating Santor, Santoor, by Pandit Shiv Kumar Sharma, Hindustani Classical Instrument Audio Jukebox. Okay? Fascinating Santor by Pandit Shiv Kumar Sharma. You probably find it like that. A very, very, very good audio track. I love the Santor. It's a great Indian, righteous, musical, enlightened instrument. All right, King David 2020, Make America Righteous Again. Go to theteachingsofkingdavid.com for more. I would encourage you to listen to this 2 or 3 times.